for me, having ADHD was really a process of self-discovery because I completely ignored the signs in myself.
What are the signs that a person should look at?
So using the strengths-based neurodiversity affirming approach, ADHD is an interest-based brain. First thing. So hyper focus on stuff that is interesting, and interesting stuff can change. Right? What's interesting yesterday is very boring today. Boring is torture for us. But a lot of things in life which are important are boring, like filing your taxes, brushing your teeth, doing your homework, studying for exams, all that, right? But it's hard for us because we don't get the dopamine which we would get if it was interesting. So therefore we delay, we avoid, we just do it to finish it, so-called careless mistakes, all that. Second is intense emotions. So we feel very passionately about things. A lot of people who are in the disability rights or rights-based, climate change, they have ADHD. And even autism, again, that social sense of social justice. So attention deficit, hyperactive disorder, I mean, it's such a mouthful. It's a horrible name. We still use it. But it's not attention deficit, it's attention regulation. We can hyper-focus on what we love. No problem with attention. 5 hours, and someone tells us it's been 5 hours, what rubbish, just 5 minutes. And something that is horribly boring, like 5 minutes, I could have been here for hours. Okay, and the intense emotions, again, so we are quite volatile. We may get frustrated easily. We may get anxious, right? So many, especially women with ADHD, because we mask, it goes underground, it presents more as mental health issues, anxiety, even bipolar disorder, and so on, rather than picking up the ADHD. And the hyperactivity is internalized, overthinking. So either worrying about the future or regretting the past. We spend a lot of time overthinking and being anxious and so on.
Hello and welcome to the India Autism Center podcast. We are here at the Purple Fest Goa, and I have a guest with me who's done a wide variety of work on child development and disability. Dr. Nandita DeSouza, the founder director of Sethu. Dr. Nandita, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast.
Thank you, Nipun. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm so delighted to be part of this initiative.
You've been doing such wonderful work for more than 2 decades now, specifically on disability, and much longer in health in general. So it's my honor really that I'm sharing this episode with you. But I would love to start off by getting into Sethu straight away. And I think you started Sethu in 2005, if I'm right?
Yes.
You were in a comfortable government job as a doctor, doing well. What inspired you to really make this shift and decide to start working with what you're doing right now?
Yeah. So, Sethu means bridge. And actually, I had stepped out of the government job many, many years before I started Sethu. I tried private practice. I was with another organization. But for me, I realized that children with disabilities have so much of potential and so much to offer the world. We can learn so much. However, unfortunately, because the way most professionals are trained, the way I certainly was trained in the medical model, where it is a deficits-based model, and when parents are obviously devastated when they're given like bad prognosis, disability gets a very bad name, and there's a lot of devastation and loss of hope actually. And I'm not saying it's easy. No, it isn't. At the same time, these kids can do so much, and we, the community, can do so much to support them. It's not entirely on the kid and the family, right? So Sethu started as this idea that let's change the narrative of disability from one of doom and gloom to bloom, because this is what we believe and this is what we've seen. So for us, everyone is the expert of their lives. Kids are the experts of their lives. Yes, even if they're 6 years old or 3 years old, they are the experts of those 3 years. And the parents are the experts of their kids, not a professional like me. How can we bring this expertise together, the parent family with the professionals and the child, of course, and form a team around the child? And beyond that, schools, communities, government, so much can be done. So that's why Sethu actually is the bridge. And everybody who I've mentioned are pillars of that bridge to hope and understanding.
I think you put it beautifully when you said the bridge in that sense. It's a bridge to the normal world for a child with a disability, I would guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in normal, because what's normal? They say not adequately investigated. That's the definition of normal.
I meant an inclusive world, but yeah.
An inclusive world, exactly, because you need different types of brains or different perspectives to make things really strong and meaningful. And everyone can contribute. That's what I firmly believe. All of us, I'd say. So that's really like, how can we understand this person, this little human being who's in front of us? What are they telling us through their behavior, through their facial expressions, to what they say, to, everything what they are doing has meaning. And we must notice it, pay attention, value it, and especially when it's giving us information about what they're experiencing, whether it's discomfort, joy. If it's joy, we need to build on that. And if it's discomfort, we need to understand what will help in the changing the environment for them to get more comfortable.
But how do things work? Like a parent approaches you when the child is born, or
Right. So at Sethu, we work at different levels, and it wasn't always like this. We started off as a child development center where children would come with their families, and we have a multidisciplinary team. So we would do the assessments and give reports and then refer and so on. But over time, we have expanded because, for a child, what we want that child to have the support where they are, not just when they come to Sethu. So for us, every child is a seed who will go back to their community, their home, and plant a garden of inclusion over there. So for us, the child and the family are the experts. Second, we want to know what are the resources that are already existing. They may be human resources, maybe a neighbor, another family member, the teacher in school. Who are the allies of this child? Who could be possible allies, right? And then, since it's Goa and we have a wonderful opportunity to work with our government closely, what are the policies which can be implemented, whether it's in school or it is like a disability certificate and the UDID card. So we kind of have moved beyond just the service that's still there, but we call it the STAR. So services, training, capacity building of anybody who cares for children. And what is the training? This. We have to change the mindset from fixing and the medical outdated deficits model to the biopsychosocial model, which is strengths-based, neurodiversity affirming. There's nothing wrong with your child. Yes, there are struggles. At the same time, we are not going to fix your child. We are going to fix the environment. If there's anything that needs to be changed, it's the environment. Because your child doesn't need to be made normal. What is normal, right? So services training, which is important to build capacity and to change mindsets. Advocacy, because how we have to make sure that children get their rights. And the research part, which is in its fledgling stage. But for us, we're very strict on documentation, on data, and using that to help us make good decisions, not only for the child, but for the family and the community and so on. So if you don't mind me talking about something that we started recently as a research project, but now it's becoming...
No, I would love to know that, but if you could also give me an example of one or two interventions that Sethu's directly done and developed a child.
Okay, so it's linked to that. So there are these F words of childhood disability. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but it's based on the International Classification of Functioning. And Peter Rosenbaum and his team in Canada had made it into the F words to make it funnier. He said, I swear this is how we should think, okay? So it's like functioning, fitness, family, friends, fun, future, okay? So, and it's a lovely framework to look at a child.
Yeah.
And consider all aspects. It's a biopsychosocial model. We took that and we added another F word, though it's not part of the original, called fences, because we want to know what are the barriers in the child's life. And we've created this one pager with all these 7 F words there. And we talk to children. And it started off as a research project because we want to know whether it really works, how. Children from 6 to 12 years. So they're young children. And we gave them the option. The clinician was there. But and the child was alone with us in the room because we didn't want parents to censor what the child was saying. And you know how, because we got under fences, mommy scolding me too much and stuff like that, which is fine. And we told parents, you know what, it's good that your child is able to say this. That means you've created a wonderful, close relationship with that child.
Yeah.
You know, so that's how it should be viewed. And we got the most amazing stuff from children. Okay, how their friends were meaningful to them, what they would do for fun, for fitness, what they would do, and sometimes pizza keeps me fit. Okay, interesting choice, but it's from the child. And for the future, we got the parents in because we told the child, choose any two things that you want to see change. Okay, either you want to see something added to your life, which will make it better, or you want to see less of something, which will make it better. So like some kids were being bullied. So they said, we want to stop this bully. And using what the child wanted, we plan the intervention. So there's no like physiotherapy, OT. Maybe that happens separately, but this so-called intervention was decided by what the child wanted. And no child said, I want to walk or I want to, right? It was like, I want to have more friends. It was all like participation. And the parents had to be advocates for their children in order for this to happen. They had to go to the school and talk to the teachers. They had to organize play dates for the friends to come over or to meet their neighbors. So literally what I said in the beginning, that children are seeds to change, that's what was happening. And because it was coming first from the child, it was valued, it was respected, and the parents also were brought in. So, and these things didn't have to be done.
So you created a feedback loop kind of a
Yes.
thing.
And at the end, so we had 34 kids, 32 completed the whole thing. But 90% of them, the goals were achieved. The family said, we didn't know that our children had these strengths. They're so much happier. The school, now the bullying has stopped. And something so simple that can be used by anybody. So that's what we want. We believe in kissing. I always say we have to become good kissers. Keep it short and simple. Anything, anything more than 3, okay. Even I can't remember more than 3, right? So like the parent has to be able to do it. Yes, there are very fancy forms available and 56 items, standardized tools and all this. Our families just don't have the time to do that. And then because they don't have time, they'll mark anything which is not accurate. Like, who's being helped by that? Nobody. So we are in the process of creating simple tools that work for us because we want data. So if, for example, for ADHD treatment, I have ADHD and...
I know, I was going to come to that, in fact. But, I'm glad you brought it up. You got diagnosed with ADHD at 60. What inspired you to
Well, I'm
go in for
supposed
that
to be the
diagnosis?
expert. I should have picked it up at least at the age of 30 when I started my work. But the thing is that for me, having ADHD was really a process of self-discovery because I completely ignored the signs in myself.
What are the signs that a person should look at?
So using the strengths-based neurodiversity affirming approach, ADHD is an interest-based brain. First thing. So hyper focus on stuff that is interesting, and interesting stuff can change. Right? What's interesting yesterday is very boring today. Boring is torture for us. But a lot of things in life which are important are boring. Like filing your taxes, brushing your teeth, doing your homework, studying for exams, all that, right? But it's hard for us because we don't get the dopamine which we would get if it was interesting. So therefore we delay, we avoid, we just do it to finish it, so-called careless mistakes, all that. Second is intense emotions. So we feel very passionately about things. A lot of people who are in the disability rights or rights-based, climate change, they have ADHD. And even autism, again, that social sense of social justice. So attention deficit, hyperactive disorder, I mean, it's such a mouthful. It's a horrible name. We still use it. But it's not attention deficit. It's attention regulation. We can hyper-focus on what we love. No problem with attention. 5 hours and someone tells us it's been 5 hours, what rubbish, just 5 minutes. And something that is horribly boring, like 5 minutes, my God, I've been here for hours. Okay, and the intense emotions, again, so we are quite volatile. We may get frustrated easily. We may get anxious, right? So many, especially women with ADHD, because we mask, it goes underground, it presents more as mental health issues, anxiety, even bipolar disorder, and so on, rather than picking up the ADHD. And the hyperactivity is internalized, overthinking. So either worrying about the future or regretting the past. We spend a lot of time overthinking and being anxious and so on. So the picture is different.
And if any of our viewers here feel that they have these symptoms that you just mentioned,
Right.
how do they go about having ADHD detected?
So again, I would say because people are experts of their lives in anything, whether it's ADHD or say you have a young child who, you know, maybe is not communicating and you're wondering whether your child is autistic or so on. I tell parents, I tell young people, everybody, get data about yourself because no one knows you like you know yourself. So, whatever you're experiencing, the good as well as the struggles, note it down. So, suppose you find that you keep procrastinating, you want, say, you're doing your thesis, right? But you keep putting it off. Ask yourself, what is hard? Just these three words, what is hard? Because from the outside, it looks like you're being irresponsible, procrastinating, or avoiding. That's what it looks like from the outside. But you're doing that because something is hard. And it's not that you can't understand the task, like making a dentist appointment, you have not done it, right? What is hard? It's not like you can't pick up the phone, you don't have the number, but there's something. I can't tell you what is hard for you, but if you sit with these three words and say, okay, what is hard, then it will come to you that, you know what, it's very boring. Like, it's hard for me to do that. Or two, actually, I'm not very sure about the number, I have to check. And that checking is again a boring. So something will come out what is hard. And then you can deal with what is hard. Maybe you need help. Maybe you need to do it with someone else. Maybe you need to go online and get some information. But if we just beat ourselves up and say, oh, you know, I'm so irresponsible, I'm supposed to do this, I haven't done it, I'm horrible, I'm useless. That's not the way it works, but you're not useless. You're trying your best. Each of us is trying the best that we possibly can at any given point in time, given the skills and the knowledge that we have at that given point in time. That is not a permanent thing. Best is not permanent. I'm doing my best right now, but I can also do better with additional knowledge, support, skills, whatever it is. But at that point in time, I was doing my best. And this is important for parents also to know, because parents blame themselves big time. Either they think they did something they shouldn't have done, or they didn't do something that they should have done. Because some neighbor, harmless, will say, ऐसा क्यों नहीं किया था? अरे सब लोग कर रहे हैं. Then my parents, oh my God, I'm so bad. You know, everyone is doing it. I didn't do it. I'm the cause. You're doing your best, and everything has a time and place, right? So that kind of, I don't know, you want to call it compassion or you want, like, and it's not something like great. I honestly don't think it's just humanity. It's just being there for each other, being gentle on ourselves, trying again. If you fail, it's okay, fail forward. Yeah, you goofed up, that's okay. You learned something. What did you learn? How not to do something, maybe. Fine, that's important learning. So for me,
That's improvement.
It's improvement. Lived experience is a gold mine. Because in lived experience is all that data, all the knowledge, all your internal information that is so important to know what would be helpful to move forward. Yes, there are lots of advice and experts and so on, right? But each one we are unique. All of us are unique. And what worked for someone else need not necessarily work for us, even if we have the same diagnosis, same age, same gender, same social status, whatever it is. We have to figure out ourselves. So hacking one's own brain, because the brain is such a marvelous, I'm a neuro nerd, the brain just fascinates me. But you have to hack your own brain and then find out what works best for you.
No, since you're a neuro nerd, you mentioned, my next question is going to be slightly connected to that. There's this perception that conditions like ADHD are way more prevalent amongst Gen Z, etc. And there's also the saying that apps like Instagram and these 45-second reels that people are watching, etc., are also leading to it. At the same time, a lot of parents, and I'm not just talking about parents, people with disabilities, but parents in general, there are working parents on both sides, and that's why they don't have so much time, and they maybe find it just easier to give a smartphone to a kid at a young age and to keep them occupied in that sense.
Yeah.
And do you think that is leading to a bigger increase in ADHD, etc.?
Okay. You've asked me many
I asked you
questions.
four questions together, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Nipun. That's very helpful.
Which is not very good for an ADHD person, I just realized.
Okay. So I'm the first one which I remember. I've already forgotten the other three. So the thing is about information. There's a lot of information out there. And we are information seekers, right? We are all curious about the world. Gen Z is much more fearless because they've grown up with information, right? I mean, they're not scared with technology and so on. So they're more likely to have access to information. Then, because human beings love to make sense of our experience, if someone has gone through an experience, they have ADHD, they have this experience, and I had the same experience. Oh my God, with me, maybe I have ADHD. That's a very natural way of thinking. Okay, you ask psychology students when they're doing their psychology course, they diagnose themselves with every chapter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because you want to connect at the end of the day with what you're reading and with what your experience is, right? But it doesn't. It's just information. So here's what I say: collect information. You are the expert of your life. Write it down. What are the struggles? What are the strengths? Then you go to a professional. Because you cannot self-diagnose. I am a professional, but I didn't self-diagnose. I self-identified. Then I went to a psychiatrist and got my diagnosis. Because we are biased. If you have a brain, you have bias. It's a human, it's a human nature to be biased. And we are biased by what we call proximity bias. Or, what we see, we think that is the truth. What is similar to how we are, we think that is the truth. Okay, so knowing that, we should not be diagnosing ourselves, even if we are professionals. We should go to a trained professional. But the data has to come from us, because the checklists for ADHD, autism, any developmental disability, the checklists are for a population. Okay, everything which you are experiencing will not be on that checklist, but it is important that you're experiencing that. And that's why I said gather your data, and because you are the expert of your life, but then take that data to someone who knows how to put it together, analyze it, and collaboratively you come to diagnosis. Professionals can't make diagnosis on their own without excellent data from their clients.
So it has to be a joint effort.
It has to be. It has to be collaborative. Everything, right from the assessment, diagnosis, intervention, has to be collaborative for it to be the best one for that situation, that family, that child.
I'll remind you about the other question I asked.
I think about screens and increase in ADHD.
And social media and its impact.
Social media.
Yeah.
So I think, so there's nothing like whether it's virtual autism or like screens are causing ADHD. No, nothing like that. Screens don't cause anything, except there's an upsurge of anxiety. Because a lot of young people, and especially during COVID, it happened, the structures disintegrated. Everyone had to be online because of education. And it was a very stressful time too, because we were all going through a pandemic, right? And young people getting smartphones, especially before the brain is developed, like the teenage years, that leads to a lot of anxiety. And even parents are more anxious. You know how when I was growing up, after 4 o'clock, my parents did not know where I was. Where could I go as far as my legs or my cycle could take me? Right? That was it. But we were a gang of friends. We were climbing trees. We were knocking down mangoes. We were cycling. We were, how? And we fell down. We got whatever, neighbor came out and gave us one thwack or whatever, shouted at us. We sorted it out. And as long as when the street lights came on, we had to come in. Now what parents are worried? Is it safe? Where is it safe? At home. What are kids going to do at home? Sit in front of a screen. Mm-hmm. So actually, the thinking we are keeping our children safe, we are actually putting them in an unsafe environment, because now, how if we don't have parental controls and filters and so on, they have access to any kind of information. So that is where the danger is. It's nothing has caused something in your child. And when we have ADHD or autism, because screens are so predictable in a way, plus the algorithms feed us what we are interested in, right? And it's immediate gratification. I'm playing a video game, immediately I've won. I don't have to wait till the results to be declared. Like I get, and then the next level, and then they're selling me something, and then
Adrenaline rush.
it is built for the ADHD brain so much. So for myself, I have set controls everywhere. So Instagram goes off after 20 minutes, YouTube goes off after 20 minutes, Amazon shopping goes off after 20 minutes. Sometimes I'm naughty and I like delete the control, but I'm getting better because otherwise I just lose track of time.
Right.
So I'm getting information, I'm reading, I'm learning about ADHD or autism or whatever it is, positive psychology, positive psychiatry from Instagram, whatever. But I have other stuff to do. I have reports to write. I have a home to look after. I have my dog to walk. So a husband to share some affection with, So yeah. So I think it's not going to change. We have to be aware of how it's impacting us. For children, I think that smartphones is something we should wait for. Yes, we have to give them phones because they need it and to keep in touch, send us a message if they're in distress. But it's the smartphones, especially for teenage brains, which is causing a lot of anxiety.
In fact,
not ADHD.
very recently, a couple of countries have actually banned social media for people below a certain age.
Yeah. So, you know why? It's very hard for parents to do this. Because the child will say, what are you? I'm the only one in the class, or they're all teasing me. Everyone has, and it's very hard. So there's this person called Jonathan Haidt, who's done a lot of research. He says what parents should get together. One is, of course, if the government is banning it, whatever, that is fine. But parents can get together, like in the class, parents of classmates, and make this as a rule. Because to do it alone is very hard. That's where the environment has to be supportive. You have to understand the science. It has to be collaborative. It's not like a law that you pass down your child. Your child has to understand that it is safety, okay? And certain limits have to be set. Yes, your child may break those limits from time to time. We've all done it.
No, I completely agree with you. I think better than banning is getting
Yes,
it is
correct.
the awareness.
Yeah. But some kind of limits based on safety, and if someone breaks those limits for whatever reason, being compassionate and like finding ways forward which are mutually acceptable. That has a better chance of success rather than shoving something down someone's throat.
I've taken a lot of your time, so I'm going to ask you two last questions. What would be your 2 or 3 pieces of advice for a parent of a child with autism? Because we are at the India Autism Center here. And secondly, what are your 2 or 3 pieces of advice for a parent to somebody with ADHD? Because that's another thing that we've really spoken a lot about.
Yeah, two of my favorite topics. So I'm also a parent of a child, a young man with ADHD. Let's come to the autism first. Actually, all parents. I really want parents to know that they are the experts of their children, because they are. And very often professionals, we disempower parents because we don't do it consciously. But sometimes in the way we ask our questions or the way we give advice. But parents are the experts of their children. Parents are the constant in their child's life. So as professionals, there's such a wealth of possibility there when we work collaboratively with parents. Third is note down whatever data your child is giving you. What are your child's strengths? What are your child's interests? Learn your child's, the world your child is inhabiting, and what makes them tick, what makes them joyful, because that's very important. What are their struggles? Where do you notice it? What have you tried that has worked? What have you tried that has not worked? Because parents very naturally find solutions, and they may not think of it as solution. They may not even honor it as their expertise. So that's very important. If you're worried about something, good. Note it down. Why are you worried about it? When does it happen? So don't diagnose your child, because I have parents coming to me, my child is doing this, but I don't think he's autistic. Okay, thank you for telling me. Let's find out more about what, as I said, first post about your child. Tell me what you enjoy about parenting. When's your child her happiest? And then let's also look at the struggles and what has worked, what has not worked, when does it happen, all that. The diagnosis must be done by professionals, but data must be given to us by families. So for parents of children with autism and ADHD, nothing's wrong with your child. The brain is just wired differently. And your child will give us evidence what will work. Because when your child is having a so-called behavior issue, behavior is a window to what's happening inside.
Yeah.
And its behavior is what we can see. So I like to compare it like to an iceberg. The behavior is the top. Feelings, thinking is down. Your child may not tell you, I am feeling hot right now, but your child is taking off their clothes, right? And you say, my God, how it's so embarrassing. Stop it. But actually, your child is feeling hot. So behavior is just a window to the internal world. The solution has to come to the internal world. So we don't have to fix behavior. We have to look at the reason and then provide a better alternative. Next thing is all children need to have a voice. They have a voice, but they need to be given a way to express it, because a lot of behavior issues are communication, actually, especially when it comes to autism, because we have children who are non-speaking and we think, oh, they're not speaking. How can they tell us what's happening? No, we have to change the environment to give them a way to communicate. Right? So that is important. And when we give children ways to communicate, actually speech also comes out. That's not the reason we are giving it to them, but very often when that anxiety, that frustration is taken out and we value any form of communication, whether it's a tech device or it is pictures or it's a communication board, anything, the child now, can you imagine the joy when you can communicate? Right? Because all those fantastic ideas, thoughts, feelings are in you. You're human, just like anybody else. And now you have a way to tell the world what's happening inside. So believe in your child. Just because it is there, just because we can't see it doesn't mean it does not exist. And find people who will, if person A doesn't give it to you, go to person B. Find people who will also believe together with you in your child. And those people must trust the parent's voice and must adjust whatever's to be done based on what the parent believes, because the parent knows their situation best. I'll give you an example. I used to always say, when you make a diagnosis, please tell your child's school, because whoever's working with your child needs to know the child's diagnosis as well as the child's strengths and struggles and so on. And many parents say, no, we don't tell the school, and I would say, before I say no, but how, then they will blame your child, and I would try to convince. Now I say, help me understand. Help me understand. All three words. Notice I have a lot of three words. Help me understand. All professionals have to use this, because we judge. We've been taught to judge, especially if you're a doctor. But there's a very good reason why that parent is saying whatever they're saying. So help me understand and find a professional who is curious about your reason, the parent's reason, because the parent is the expert of the child. And we can fix things. Yes, okay, you don't want the diagnosis to be told. Okay, let's find another way where we can create allies in school. They don't need to know that this is autism or whatever, but they will understand the child. So we use neuroscience, executive functioning, okay, emotional regulation. All of us need executive functioning. You don't have to have ADHD, autism to need executive. Every human being needs executive function. So we write it in that way. So even when we write letters to schools, for example, we'll run it past the parents. Is this okay? You want me to add anything to this? I won't add anything false. Okay, but is there anything you would like me to add or take away? That is my role as a professional, to work with the parent. I don't have some magic wand that
I wish we all had one, right? I wish we all had that magic wand.
The magic wand is community. The magic wand is connection. The magic wand is the expertise which lies within each one of us. You said 3-4 words, I think. Yeah. Okay, you got 3-4 chapters.
No, but thank you so much, Dr. Nandita. It was a pleasure talking to you. And
thank you, Nipun.
I hope Sethu spreads all across India, because I think your program needs to be scaled up.
Take it forward, man. It's not rocket science, right? And it's such an honor to be here, meet people like you, learn more about the work of India Autism Center. And I know that they're very strengths-based, neurodiversity affirming. And I honestly think together, we have to change that story, because it is not the right story of doom which we are hearing now. And it's not on fixing the child. If there's anything that we need to fix, it is changing mindsets, attitudes, infrastructure, that needs to be fixed, because the kid or the adult and families, it is our duty to join their struggle and be allies and change society for the better.
Right.
Everybody, as I say this, every village needs a child. Every child needs a village, and all of us belong there. So just because you don't have a child with a disability, or you're not a professional working, or how, go out, become an ally, help, understand more, make a friend, because your life will be changed. You will become a better person. I firmly believe that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.